All good. Man, I'll tell you what, I feel like we haven't been in the heat like that in a while. Like when the clouds are out and compared to the sun, it's still a 15-degree difference. What is that, true feel? Is that what they call it, true? That's what it felt like. Getting used to it again.
A lot of the guys talked about leaving.
When you can crank up the run game like that, how much does that open things up for everything else that you're going to do?
Yeah, I mean, like I've talked about before, like the run game really kind of sets the table. It allows us play pass, keepers, and then gets guys thinking about it when we go drop back. You know, you get a lot of loaded boxes when they start to get worried about it. And you can put them in a bind if they want to keep playing shell and split safety stuff. So it just helps empower us to do whatever we feel we need to do to win the game. In particular, like I think was really underrated about running the ball is you gain a power position with controlling the clock. You know, I felt like we had multiple drives. We were on the field for what felt like 5+ minutes, you know, and for an offense it's really gratifying because, I mean, you want to be on the field. That's when it's fun. And for the defense, obviously, you know, when they're on the sideline, that gives them a little juice, that gives them a little energy, especially when they see the O-line blocking the way they were, the tight ends blocking the way they were, and Joe running it how he was.
CJ, Steph, Joe have all talked about like they're trying all left the bottom of the table week one. Do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I think, and you know, honestly, it's probably this way across the NFL week one. But you know, we really wanted to play clean football. That was one of the big emphasis we made going into the game. And I think execution-wise, mentally, as far as doing our job, in particular in the run game, we did that. But we didn't always do it well. If you know, like there were some technique and fundamental things we definitely could clean up. I know Joe had some one-on-one ops in the hole that he would like back. You know, and just little things like even how we have a track on a certain play or what our angle is on a combination up to the second level. We were off, and we still got some good plays out of it. But if we were on it, to us, like we see explosives, you know. So we felt like we missed a few of those. And then in the pass game was a little bit of everything. Protection was some physical and a lot of mental that we had to be on top of. And really it was the same route-wise all the way across the board. Like it was a lot more inconsistent than the run game was.
Gus Bradley, earlier in the week, he mentioned how you guys having a 3-receiver trio forced them to kind of stay in some too high shells, which Joe Mixon was able to have 88 yards on 15 carries against those too high looks. So it's kind of like the preparation of, all right, preparing for when you're going to get those too high looks when you can run the ball, and then kind of counter off of that. What's kind of like that preparation?
Yeah, the way the game went, you could probably, like if you would rewatch it, you would likely feel a lot of what we're feeling just based on the flow of how the game was called. We went into the game like we're prepared for Gus's single safety, his split safety, and we were prepared for pressures, but we expected a steady mix. And that's kind of why we came out and we were fairly balanced run-pass. And as the game went on and it just stayed too high, eventually you're going to take advantage of you know where your matchup is. And I think third quarter we started running it more. In fourth quarter it really felt like we threw the ball very little. And a lot of it was, you know, that goes back to what's so fun about this group. They just empower you to do whatever you need to do to win the game, you know, and that's what we were able to pull off.
Joe talked about in the offseason how he had an offseason that he'd never had before to get ready for this year. He wanted to be that bell cow back, you know, 30 carries plus some passing down stuff. It's a big workload for a guy. Is that something that's sustainable throughout the course of the season? Is that, hey, that's what we need to do to win the game that day? How do you sort of manage something like that for a guy like Joe?
Physically, I'd say he's probably one of the few guys remaining in the NFL that could handle that. I mean, there's not many offenses you're going to run the ball to the same guy 30 times over and over and over and over again every week. But I'm not really worried about his workload in that regard. Like, he's just built and has in his past done that before and is built to do that. But it really is more of we'll give Joe the ball as many times as necessary, you know, and we'll give Nico the ball as many times as necessary, and we'll give Steph the ball as many times as necessary, and Tank, and like really all the way across the board. And every game's going to wind up playing out different. So in that game, it was a 30-carry game for Joe, and when you have 30 carries and you're averaging over 4, in his case 5 a carry, that's a heck of a day.
Is having Stephon extra valuable for the short and intermediate passing game? I know CJ has a high yards per attempt, but it seems like Stephon is, helping you guys out when you need those slants, short routes, stuff like that.
Yeah, I mean, he's tough. He has phenomenal hands. He's competitive, and all of that equals, ball control. But he's also explosive, and that for us will enable us as the season goes to stretch the field. His ops in the last game really, again, it was a lot of shell. So when his ops were called, it just didn't happen to be the right play. And a lot of times when we had to get the ball down underneath, he was the guy that was under there. But I think it really helps just reinforce to the quarterback that we can be willing to get the ball just for a completion when we don't get what we want, and we can trust the guys underneath to go move the chains, And like an example is one of the first third downs of the game, we throw it short of the sticks to Steph, and Steph's like kicking himself that he didn't get the first down, because he takes a lot of pride in that. And that kind of mindset, that mentality, you can get him the ball anywhere.
Bobby, what is it like game plan for a defense like the Chicago Bears? Last week they used that defense to win. Last season they had 22 interceptions. They were top 5 in takeaways when you're playing against super aggressive corners like that, and also a linebacker who can get just as many interceptions.
Yeah, I really think they're good at every level. Their secondary is very good secondary. The backers fly around. They hit you. They're physical up front. They got some rushers without a doubt, especially on the edges. They can put pressure on you, and that shows in how they played last year. I mean, when we watch tape, as an offense, we all think it's a very good defense, and all we've talked about ad nauseum is making sure we protect the ball and we protect the team. That's really our big emphasis as far as going into this game, making sure that we want to rack up yards, touchdowns, all that, but the starting point of this week is making sure that we hold on to the ball.
What goes into calling a reverse at the right time compared to like other plays or a wide receiver sweep or something like that?
A lot. I think sometimes you kind of know going into the game when you want to pull something like that. For right now, I'll call it a gadget. And then there's other times during the course of the game, just the flow of the game, what you're seeing on the field. Do guys look tired? How hard are they pursuing? Who in particular are you watching that you're attacking with a specific gadget? It really changes based on what that is. The reverse in particular was more of a feel call. We were running it pretty well, and we got to move inside to side a lot, and we just needed an offset.
To that point, even though like last year you guys ran with Tank, why does Tank having when the ball's in his hands on plays like that doesn't work so well? Obviously, it takes the entire team, but when the ball's in his hands on those sweeps and stuff like that, it works very well. Like that.
He's incredibly fast and incredibly shifty, and it's really as simple as that. I mean, the guy goes from 0 to 60 like at the snap of a finger. And when you're doing stuff like that where you're trying to get the ball to an edge fast, I mean, that's just really valuable. And it also protects him. And that's the other thing that we always want to do when we give him the rock in those types of situations is make sure he gets to a position that he can protect himself and still get a lot of yards.
Bobby, as the second-year offensive coordinator, a lot of them don't get as many weapons as you have. How do you game plan to be able to get everybody the ball, and what did it look like in real time playing in that first regular season game?
Yeah, truthfully, it's not a large part of the thought process. I feel like I'm not. This isn't completely unusual. Like in San Fran, there was Debo, there was Ayuk, there was Kittle, there was Christian. Like there were a lot of guys you wanted to touch the ball there. So I feel like that's just how I'm used to approaching every game. You make sure you have ammo for everybody, and through the course of the game. As soon as you try to force it to somebody, a lot of times what happens is you call a lot of bad plays. And we kind of get into a rhythm of guys understanding the intent of what we're trying to get done, so they know when their shot is called or when their time is called. And if the defense gives it to us, let's go. And if they don't, then we got to be okay with just taking what they give us and just staying on track, pressing forward so that we can stay on the field as long as we can.
Risks. How do you prepare to always have fourth down as an option?
Say that again. I'm sorry.
That Coach Ryan is always willing to take the risk.
Oh, on fourth down, you're talking. Yeah. Truthfully, it's pretty easy for me because I don't have the extra step of having to make the decision. So for me, it's like once third down ends, I'm like, all right, fourth down call, let's roll. And then he tells me I get to do it or I don't, And I mean, it's kind of as easy as that, Like we got to the 2-yard line there at the end of the game, and I know he was thinking about what he wanted to do, and then he ultimately decided, hey, let's go score. Got to play for that. Let's go. So I'm not going to say they always work, but it's easy for me. It's just once you're used to that, you prepare as though you're going to do that every time.
Some of the stuff that Brevin's been able to do, play maybe faster, he understands things more. What have you noticed from Brevin's growth from maybe a year ago where you guys were when the offense kind of just started to where you are now, and what kind of role he has for you?
Yeah, I really think Brevin, through the course of last season, took a massive step as far as just being a professional, being an NFL player, and not just physically but mentally and everything that goes along with that. So he knew he had to get in his playbook. He knew he had to learn our scheme. But then he went to an extra step of, okay, how do I devote this extra time to taking care of my body? How do I devote this extra time to making sure on game day I'm 100%, I'm good to go, I'm looking fast? And he grew into that as the season went on, which I think everybody saw the way he played as the season went on. And then he carried that over into the offseason. And all he's continued to do is get better and better and better, even through camp all the way into this game. I mean, some of the run blocking clips he had in this last game were some of the best we've had since we've been here. And that's stuff he's been doing since training camp. So he's just embraced all phases of being an NFL player.
What are some of the, because it looked like, just looking at some of the Titans film when they played the Bears, you flew for a lot of too high also. What are kind of differences from too highs across different teams?
Yeah, it's very different going from what we did last week to what we're going against this week. The way they run too high, the structure they run too high from, and what they do at the front when these guys run too high is different. It's extremely sound, and you could tell they've been doing it a long time. I mean, they're on it from the secondary to the linebackers to the D-line. They know exactly where they're supposed to be and what they're doing. And then the big thing a lot of times is it's not any just individual coverage. It's a group of what a team does. So what Chicago does is a different group as far as offsets than the group of coverages that Indy does. And it completely changes how you have to approach really every play from a game planning perspective. And then that's not even taken into account in the individual. So I know I say it all the time, but when I say every game is really different, that's a lot of why. Because you have different people in different spots, you have different schemes and different combinations of schemes and different ways they play it. And Eberflus is always, I've played him twice now. This will be the third time, and he's been very difficult as far as how he's willing to change it and keep the picture moving on you.
Thanks, Bob.
Yep. Thanks, everybody.
Come on. Let's go.
What do you think of Caleb Williams? That was just one game, just overall quarterback talent?
Yeah, very talented young man. Obviously, just from limited in the NFL from a scheme and what we're seeing, obviously from between preseason and last week. Went back. All of us have kind of gone back a little bit, college, and just the things he did well there. I mean, I think. The word is almost near elite at making plays out of the pocket, very, very good, can arm talent all day long, can make all those plays, and when he gets loose, it's what he wants to do, and obviously, from college and even some snaps that we've seen in the league so far, has real talent to make plays, to make real throws outside the pocket. I would say that's the most dangerous he's been, but very, very good young player.
DC, especially on third down, you guys want to throw some disguises, confuse them, things of that nature. With younger quarterbacks, like rookie quarterbacks, what's kind of that balance of not doing too much, where you might have someone out of position and they can exploit that, versus still trying to confuse them?
Yeah, for sure. That's just in general, I would say. Yeah, not necessarily specific to a rookie quarterback, but because Coach Larry Foote, way back in the day in Detroit, and he used to say, "Don't sugar at the expense of your coverage." He called that sugaring, So you never want to put yourself in a disadvantageous position by just because you're trying to disguise something. At the end of the day, like, we're going to play our coverage and we're going to play our techniques. If we can build into that some movement and some dropping down or getting out or some pressure looks and bailing or holding shells and blitzing, all those things that we try to do, great. But you go extreme to try to trick something up too much, and then you put yourself in a bad spot. And at the end of the day, we feel if we're where we're supposed to be and playing the coverage the way we want to play it, that we'll be in a position to make those plays. So I think that's always like an intricate balance regardless of who you're playing.
What are some of the things you tell Kamari Lassiter, a rookie who's going up against these veteran wide receivers who have a lot in their bag and definitely will try to use that against him?
Yeah, I wouldn't just say same thing. Play the techniques you've been playing since you've been here. You know what I mean? I mean, he's gone against good receivers in training camp and in practice, and hasn't backed down, has played his game, and I wouldn't tell him to change anything from that. I mean, they do have a good group of skill players over there, but I don't think that it was too big for him last week, and I expect him to play similarly this week.
Some of those deep plays down the middle that hit, some of those deep ones on the side that didn't. Are those easily correctable, quickly correctable, and do you expect teams to sort of try you to prove that you have fixed it?
Anytime you put anything on tape that whether someone thinks that it's something they did or something we did, that they're going to try to take advantage of those things. So obviously, we shouldn't be in those positions. I mean, a couple of them are 50-50 balls, and we just got to make some plays and maybe technique-wise put ourselves in a better position to make those plays. You know what I mean? Where you're not going backwards or going forwards or however we want it done. But we're always trying to correct the things that, whether it's the deep balls, the run game, any of that stuff. So I would anticipate people trying to test us on things until we prove that it's not a good route to take for us against us. Sure, you're good.
Kalen Bullock said that on the interception that he got, he said that his film study helped him out a lot, and to see what where the play, how the play was going to be, and he knew exactly how much he had. When you have how much room he had as far as the field is concerned, when you have a safety like that so young, being able to have that type of knowledge, how much does that benefit the defense?
Yeah, sure. Again, I think we've talked about Kalen a few times here. His history as a deep field player in college and what he did there, and sort of just has a pretty innate understanding of those type of positions on the field and how to take advantage of those. He made plays in the balls in college, he made plays in the balls in training camp, and obviously week one he made plays in the balls there. So I do think he has a pretty good feel from those sort of deep zone areas and where he's fitting. And then, as you get to this level and start formation recognition and what routes you're getting out of those formations, I think that's probably what he's, alluding to in terms of just like studying the film now. And now that's the second level of, okay, I know where I'm supposed to be now. What am I expecting from pre-snap formations or what I'm getting there? And I think, that kind of heightens your anticipation of what you're getting and can maybe put you in a cleaner position to make those breaks. So it was a good start for him. Excited to see him again this week.
Kind of an even sack, quarterback hit, et cetera, distribution this year, given kind of the depth you have across your defensive line in front seven?
Yeah, sure. I think. I expect all those guys to have success. Like, yeah, we're not like we're going to rig everything up for one guy to get 1 million sacks and no one else. I think it's similar with the quarterback this week in terms of getting out of the pocket. Like last week was, we have to rush as a unit. It's a little different style. I would say he looks to throw more than run when he's out of the pocket. So, so we're going to try to, we got to rush as a group and rush coordinated. And when that leads to, you saw last week, I know Daniil and Will get all the hype, but, our two interior guys got the sacks last week because they rushed as a unit. There were a couple of times we didn't rush as a group, and Richardson got out on some scrambles and some stuff. So, we don't design things for one player to be successful. It's a group effort, and it's another challenge this week with another mobile quarterback that is dangerous when he gets out. So we're going to have to probably have a similar approach in terms of trying to rush as a whole unit up front and try to keep that pocket tight.
From a preparation standpoint, is there any extra challenge given the fact that you have a 1-game sample size of Caleb and the offense really didn't move the ball and you don't have much else to go off of? Does that add any extra challenges? Do you go back and watch him at SC? Do you just try to do?
Yeah, I would say this: there's always, just even last week, there's always elements of unknown early in the season. Richardson didn't have a long history of film for us in the league and stuff, and I would say with Coach Waldron, like, and as a coordinator, has like gone against this front a bunch, and obviously with D'Amico and the Seattle San Fran, and when I was in Arizona and stuff. So there's you try to go back schematically and see what they liked against this front, or how they attack this defense, this coverage package. So, those are just trying to glean nuggets. And again, I think, not to be super cliche, but at the end of the day, it comes back to us. Like, we feel if we don't put ourselves in some of those bad positions and some of the coverage communications, or if we play our defense and play the style we want to play and put ourselves in the spots that we're supposed to be in, then we can handle whatever the unknowns are, because there's always going to be unknowns. Like, they can run whatever they want, right? We can look at college tape, we can look at Seattle Seahawks tape, and anything else that's going on, Chicago last year tape, whatever it is, and they can do whatever they want. So, the focus is on us making sure that we're tight in what we're trying to do and not giving anything for free, and then we can make adjustments off of that.
Caleb's ability to extend plays and his ability to make off-schedule plays and kind of looking downfield when he's scrambling out of the pocket. For a quarterback that's innate in being able to make off-schedule plays, like, what are the difficulties that go into preparing for a guy that's not really scripted out, like he's kind of free ball?
Yeah, I mean, that's like literally, I would say, as much as we talked about the front rushing a guy like that, like, it's a little bit on them to try to limit some of those like exposures. But in the back end, you talk about plastering and sort of the second play within the play. It's okay, you match something up and you have a route concept that you've done some film study on, maybe Kalen has, and sees something and jumps it, or we take it away. Now that breaks down. Then it's, I don't want to say it's street ball, but then it's like, okay, now we've got to find our matchups and plaster, not give those open throws, because he's constantly, he does a really good job of having his eyes downfield. Once he gets out and breaks, he's looking to throw the ball. So, like, I would say the back end guys have our front end guys, their job is to try to not let some clean escapes like that, and then try to make it hard for him to find those ways out. And then the back end guys, if it does happen, we got to match up and plaster. And so, and like you said, at that point, it's really just trying to find the guy close. And you try to have some rules of like where you're looking in your zones or where the matchups happen. Just again, you can't just have free runners kind of breaking free. So you try to drill that as much as you can in practice. It's tends to be somewhat improvised on game day, so you can't really like 100% lock that down. But again, not a broken record. We just try to, within our coverages, be in the right spots, and if we rush properly, we hopefully limit those opportunities.
Speaking of one of your earlier answers about Mario and Folly, what do you feel like? It seems like they've been consistent since the beginning of training.
Sorry, they said what?
It seems like they've been consistent since the beginning of the training camp, Mario and Folly. What do you feel like has allowed them to be to kind of flourish in you all's defense?
Yeah, again, I think for all the D linemen and interior guys especially, like, we just try to make it really simple, and those guys both have embraced playing our style. Again, I think I said this specifically about Mario, but just like as quickly as I've seen, and sometimes it's hard for veteran players that haven't played this style to really adapt to it. It can be counterintuitive if you're used to reading blocks and playing blocks and being at the line of scrimmage and just trying to anchor and do those type of things, and then we're telling you like not to do any of that, just to get off and go. And so sometimes it takes players longer. I remember Javon Hargrave was a great player. Now, when we first got him in Philly from Pittsburgh, and that transition took him 4 or 5 weeks maybe, and then once he hit it, you saw like the second half of his first year, and then he became obviously the player he's become in the system. So I think those two guys have actually kind of taken to those techniques. I mean, Foley had a little history with it in New York, but just they've embraced just sort of the attack mentality and to get off, and it's sort of freed them up to just use their physical tools to be good. And I think that showed last week, and hopefully they continue on that track. And they have been pretty consistent in what they've been asking them to do. Yep.
Thanks, man.
Oh,
I got a quick one.
come on, son. Let's go.
Who plays scout team Caleb Williams?
Whatever, all our quarter Davis and Blow. It's not, yeah, we don't like do anything crazy like that. We did try to, like, hey, every now and then we'll tell them if something's not there, like, get out, and just to get a feel for it, So, but we don't do a specific, like, who would you play? Yeah.
Like Steven Sims.
Simsy? Okay.
To run around.
Man, really challenging us, huh? All right. I hope Simsy's a little quicker than Caleb. We'll see.
When's the last time you've used like a non-quarterback team guy?
Dude, I don't know.
Yeah.
I'd have to think. I don't. I'm not sure. I don't have a quick answer for that one. I'm trying
Bring
to go back.
Sarge.
I'm trying to go back. All right, we'll get Sarge next time.
Research project.
All right. Next week I'll come back to you on that one. How's that?
Thanks, Matt.
Excited for the home opener. A chance to prove ourselves. If you watched the Bears game, man, their special teams unit was dynamic, well-coached unit. A lot of in their third, maybe fourth year, or adding some new guys. But a lot of those players third year playing together for their unit. So got our hands full this Sunday, and excited to get off on a right foot. Trying to factor in the kicking game. They really started and generated the comeback that they had made for them with the kicking game. So we got to be ready to go.
After going back and watching the film, what was the breakdown in the block punt?
Yep. Need you guys to be hard on me. You guys are generally nice to me, and we got to be better. Unacceptable. So we got to be better in our fundamentals, day one stuff, making sure we're all on the right bodies and operating in the right precision across the board. So not a foreign look, not something unexpected, but nonetheless, like that's never acceptable, no matter how new it may be, I haven't seen this before. Day one fundamentals, just keeping ourselves on the right tracks and the right paths, making sure we're body on body and being clean with that moving forward. Excited to get challenged and proving that we can do it correct moving forward.
What surprised you most about the kickoffs, either in your own game or watching tape around the league?
Yeah, have watched the rest of the league. So in the genesis of it, it's going to be this really, creative, a lot of moving parts. And then as the rules, pared themselves down, it kind of became just so standardized that early in the year we talked about it. But, as the year goes on, the feelers are out there and it'll become more, quote unquote, creative. But definitely across the league, it was, I would say, basic. I'd say sound. And it was like, hey, hat on a hat football and then see who could win. For us, just who can play with their speed. And I think that factored in our coverage, getting on guys, get on their edge and pressing blocks. That truly did show up. We had a few free hitters on the ball by the way we were launching it on our angles and taking off, and that mattered in the end of the day. So if you're playing with a bigger group, maybe you're a 3-4 team, hitting and pressing blocks downhill. If you're playing with faster guys, you want to get off the rock and get going. So precision across the board with placement and making sure that you're timing to get off, and that truly, to me, showed either good coverage or lack of in the league.
Do you like the new kickoff rules? How do you feel about it?
I'll let you know in a couple weeks. Yeah, still undecided. Still undecided.
To a point where more people are just kicking it out of the end zone because it's at the 30. Like, what do you think the risk reward of that decision is?
Like, try not to think about it as risk. We try to go out there and play aggressive. And I truly do not like that part of the game. I wish we had, returns or coverage every single time. I think that was the goal. And
they kind of made it to where they're almost killing the kickoff, because there was a time where we were saying they're killing the kickoff, and then it was like they're bringing it back, and now it just seems like a lot of teams are just kicking out of the end zone even more now.
Yep. Everybody to their own. They can do it however they want to do it. I think that when it matters, you better be ready to have coverage ready instead of just kicking the ball out. So, everybody, again, they can do whatever flavors up for them. Let's say you don't cover any kicks throughout the entirety of the season, and in week 12 you're in Buffalo, and you have to cover. So are you ready to do that? And, that maybe that's part of the formula for some teams. I don't know if it's killing the kickoff or not. I just think that, I think the goal is for it to be a good play, a safe play, and a play that either has a chance or we just don't want stalemates. And across the league, we don't want that. So we'll, continue to evaluate it as it goes. Either way, Landry, just to your question, either way, man, just try and make a difference. So, like, can we get the ball out, get that ball to midfield and really spark something? So if it's not able to do that in the end, yeah, I understand why getting rid of the risk makes sense and just touching it back.
You don't usually see punchers throw in the fourth round. What makes Torrey Taylor so special? What you like about him?
Yeah, I think first off, the thing that jumped out about Taylor was his mindset, his mentality. So older guy, but this guy was an alpha at Iowa. So coming out of the game or coming out of the draft, everybody, that was easily identified as you're talking to the person. So, hey, I'm going to show up to work. I want to freaking win football games. I want to play well. He's got a really big leg and a really fast out time. I mean, he's pretty dynamic. And then any player, rookie, whatever position, and punter included, linebacker, running back, they have to grow. So, whatever Torrey Taylor looks like on, Sunday night, we'll fast forward it 3 years from now, he's going to be a really good punter in this league. So, we got to be ready, and I know he can hit that ball a long way. So, can't let them flip the field on us. We got to find a way to generate some returns and get ourselves started on a good foot offensively. Along with that, he's got two gunners that both have, they're in year 3 together. Okay, so Jones and Josh, they've been playing together since 2022 when they started as rookies. So, dynamic coverage, a lot of speed out there. We have to nullify that. You look at the Travis Homer, the personal protector. I mean, he's arguably one of the best special teams players in the league. So that's a third gunner down the core. And then having, Sanborn and Cardi Blasingame, an experienced guy from our division. Elijah Hicks he's like Eric Murray. This guy's a Swiss Army knife on special teams. So, we have to find a way. If they're punting the ball and they punt it a long way, we've got to find a way to generate some return yards. He's going to be a good punter.
How do you get involved with D'Amico and Bobby on, hey, Kaimi's good from here? Is that a beginning of the day thing? Is that just a certain part of the field? Do you have to constantly sort of remind, hey, he's good from here if you want to kick? How does that conversation
Sure.
go?
It's always nice to play in the AFC South where playing in an NRG where you get a lot of controlled environment. So kind of some form-filled standard things. But we have our numbers and our kind of what we know his range is. And then, Sundays it will be kind of more honed in going into the game, coming out of pregame based on the conditions we're at. So if there is Baltimore at the last part of the year there a season ago, that was a pretty stringent line relative to being able to get it into the wind from one side of the field. So we'll have those conversations pregame after we know, hey, this is probably our max pending the situation.
D'Amico only has a certain amount of time to decide whether or not he's going to go for it on 4th down, so he's looking at the distance. Are you involved in any of those calls as well?
Yeah, I think just the pregame plan from the week leading up to the game and the preparation, and then I know that coach has said that's decisions is his based on analytics and going with his feelings. So everybody on our entire staff in congruence works throughout the week to make sure whatever decisions that come up in situations, that come up in the game will be handled accordingly to however coach wants to do that. That's good.
Thanks.
Thanks.